Greetings, everybody. Let me first make sure everyone can hear me. Can you just drop a line in the chat that you can see and hear us? All the stuff. Sweet. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. Wow. Emphatic yeses all around. So the video works, the audio works, the chat works. Thank you for the early participation. Very excited to be here this morning. My name is Patrick Donovan, and I work in marketing at Udacity. I'm coming to you from Oakland, California this morning, my time. Super excited to be here with a few AI experts today. This is our prompting face-off. You're going to watch pros take on AI in real time. So whether you are AI curious or AI expert, our hope is that when you're through here today, you'll have learned at least one or two, if not many more, new tricks for your prompting practice. I will be your host today, but most of the heavy lifting will come from our AI experts. I will get to them in a second, but first I wanted to share a bit more about today's program. First, I'll introduce our esteemed AI experts, Dr. Uohna Thiessen and Noble Ackerson. And once we hear a bit more about their backgrounds, their day-to-day, and how they use AI, we will dive headfirst into our prompting face-off. The way that will work is we've prepared a few different tasks that are fairly common in the GPT prompting world, and we will pose those tasks to both Dr. Uohna and to Noble, and we will ask them to really share their screen and dive into their environment and walk us through the thinking behind how they approach the tasks, as well as the actual prompting and how they engage with the different tools in their ecosystem. Then after we've had a chance to run through a number of the tasks that we've pre-prepared, I really encourage everyone in chat to send through your ideas and your questions. Are there particular tasks that you want to ask our experts how to do? You want to see them take a crack at? Are there just general questions you have about best practices? We should have some time closer to the end of our conversation today to speak to hopefully some of those tasks and some of those questions you might have. So please encourage you to engage in the chat as we go, and Dakota from our team will be in there engaging and capturing all the great questions and insights you provide. With that said, I would like to introduce our two guests. First, I don't know what side of your screen she's on, but on the left side of my screen, we have Dr. Uohna Thiessen. Welcome, Dr. Thiessen. In addition to being a Udacity instructor, Dr. Uohna Thiessen is an accomplished AI consultant who is recognized for her innovative implementation of AI strategies. Her career includes positions such as Director of AI at Nextelligence and Senior Data Scientist at Meta. Dr. Thiessen earned her PhD in statistics from the School of Epidemiology at Walden University and is passionate about educating the next generation of data professionals and sharing her expertise at leading universities and professional boot camps worldwide. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Thiessen. With myself and Dr. Thiessen is Noble Ackerson. Noble is a Stanford-trained expert in ethics and technology who specializes in integrating responsible development and the use of AI and ML predictive data products into enterprise solutions and extended reality experiences. As part of his ongoing focus on generative AI and explainable user interfaces, Noble has pioneered concepts in generative explainable UI, which dynamically generates AI-driven interfaces tailored to user needs. Noble, Dr. Thiessen, welcome, and thank you both for joining.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Glad to be here, yeah.
Great. Well, both of you have very impressive resumes, particularly as it pertains to our context today, learning about the application of AI day to day. Wondering, Dr. Thiessen, if you don't mind going first, just tell folks who are joining today a bit more beyond your bio about your current day to day. What does a week in your life look like when it comes to the professional domain? You're on mute, I think.
The classic sin. So hi everyone. I am Dr. Uohna Thiessen, and I am a data scientist. So I came I came to this field by way of a statistician. So I was involved very heavily in a lot of data analysis and quantitative analysis. And so that's where my focus has been. So I spend quite a bit of my time working with organizations and businesses, helping them to extract insight from their data, or even building a data strategy for the company if there isn't any. But specifically with AI, I use AI for a lot of my own personal automation of tasks that I do regularly. So planning my schedule, drafting outlines, coming up with ideas, prototyping different things. And then for my clients, it's more about helping them to figure out where AI could be of benefit to them, to their company, to their workflow, and then developing a strategy for that implementation. And also, helping them to understand, from the basics, in some cases, what is AI and how it works, and what are some of the benefits and the advantages, what are some of the risks involved, and how it should be utilized in a manner that is within the guidelines and also sustainable, and all of the different benefits in terms of for educators, how they can use it in their classroom, and then for businesses, small business owners, marketing agents, all of these different types of categories, different tasks. I help them to understand exactly how AI can be leveraged for their business outcomes.
Great. That's interesting. I'm going to put you on the spot. What is one of the more recent specific examples for which you've used AI personally or professionally?
So right now, most of the work is building agents, right? People are very much excited about agents. So I've been doing quite a lot of work building agents on the different agentic AI platforms. So that's kind of thing. And most of these agents are more in the line of customer service type of agents. There are others, but that tends to be the ones that are more common for me.
Interesting. Great. Yeah. AI agents. You hear a lot about them these days.
Yes.
Noble, over to you. Tell us a bit more about what you do in your day to day.
Yeah, hi. Again, thanks for the opportunity, Patrick, and the team behind the scenes. Yeah, so day to day, I am a risk and safety person. I help teams ship software with AI sometimes in it responsibly. And so if it's a data product and the data product happens to be a machine learning model, and that needs to be integrated, that my teams are following certain standard practices across, trustworthy delivery of these things, such as explainability, debiasing or having tests for biasing, making sure that we're evaluating for accuracy, faithfulness, that kind of stuff. Explainability in terms of source attribution for generative AI products, but true interpretability in the sense of for smaller models. I help red team some products and models from some large labs that I'm under NDA and can't talk about. And so I do a lot. And at the end of the day, it's just sort of bringing standard product sense and foundational engineering understanding, and just being empathetic to human needs, and sort of just trying to drown out a lot of the noise from signals. So I tend to stay informed with what's new, but I tend to be cautious in how I adopt some of these new solutions in my day to day. Yeah.
That's great. I think a lot of what I hear and see in the AI space is AI for the sake of AI is not really what's going to be impactful, and so it is very great to see that we have the two of you working in the field and trying to prevent that from happening. Noble, kind of same question coming your way. So you're kind of deep in the AI world. Most of what you said, I'm embarrassed to admit, is over my head. And so I'm just curious, when we get down to prompting, what are things you commonly engage with GPT in prompt engineering for?
Yeah, great question. So my typical prompting falls under two categories. It's either technical prompting, whether I'm sort of creating synthetic data to sort of seed, um, you know, prototype or actually evaluate a model or a solution that we're building with a model, or I'm scaffolding boilerplate code. So that's more the technical prompting stuff, and then exploratory prompting, much like Dr. Uohna, like it's mostly deep research stuff on a topic that I'm looking to learn more about, or just to either validate. It's like a launch point to either validate a thought or repudiate a bias, or typical boring things like creating visuals for slides. I do a lot of talks and presentations in my day to day. I'm currently focused on building user interfaces that adapt to real time. And so I'm having to explain all of that to people. So I guess I use prompting to sort of simplify complex topics for various stakeholders. And so, yeah, it's almost like a handy virtual assistant that over time knows me more than I know myself, kind of thing, to help me fill in some gaps that it knows I'm going to have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, great. Well, if you're keeping score at home, very much two experts in terms of their application of GPT and the AI underpinning GPT. If you're like me and the extent of your use of prompt engineering is trip planning, then I think you're going to learn a lot today. So excited for what's ahead. The last question I will pose you each before we move into the prompt face-off segment. I want to hear about your aha moment. When did you really realize? I mean, you've both been working in the field for a while, probably pre-OpenAI, ChatGPT, entering the zeitgeist. What was the moment where you finally sort of really started to come to terms with the practical opportunities that have been on display in the past, I don't know, what now, 3 or 4 years? Dr. Thiessen, what do you think?
Yeah, I very distinctly remember when Claude Artifact came out, where you can generate code. That was huge for me. I'm not, a programmer by, profession. That's not how I came to this, even though I do write code for machine learning and that kind of stuff. So when I saw the artifact and I wanted to test it out, and I gave it, and maybe sometime later we can show this. I asked Claude to generate an interactive web page that I can use to teach machine learning concepts. And within seconds, the code came all 1,000 lines, and then I could actually take that and launch it as a web page that was interactive with all of the different, it had the different types of machine learning models and all the features and everything. And that was like really, that blew me away. So that's definitely stood out for me.
Wow. Yeah. Very specific. Thank you. And Noble, how about yourself?
Can I cheat and answer it two ways? Because there were two different kinds of AI that gave me my aha moment. I guess one was basically like a double whammy. This is late November 2022. I hear about this thing that everyone wouldn't stop talking about called Midjourney, and I joined the Discord. I believe it was on Discord, and see all that was being generated just with words. As someone who had a background in natural language processing and conversational AI, it just made no sense that it worked so well. And then around that same time, GPT-3 or 3.5, I can't remember now, dropped. And then in February, they announced their partnership with Microsoft. And I didn't really understand the technology, but I knew I work with machine learning models, and I know that those are non-deterministic. And the notion that Microsoft Bing was going to change their entire interface to use a autoregressive system to give me my results, and that would be like the next evolution of search, really piqued my interest in a skeptical way. And I wrote this famous Towards Data Science article about how GPTs are not a reliable information store. And a quick funny anecdote, which sort of buttressed my aha moment, was it was a negative aha, I guess. As with any new technology, in my opinion, to learn that technology, you have to use information that you know more than anything. So if you're a physicist, or if you're like Dr. Uohna over here, and you're data scientist, you maybe might want to prompt it on a topic that you may know, like data science or something. Well, I'm egotistical, so I ego surfed. I asked it about my name. Do you know Noble Ackerson? As one Googles themselves. We've all done it. Don't lie. And so it turns out that I was this wealthy startup founder from Ghana, West Africa, that sold a company, made millions, and then passed away. So I found out I was dead. That's how I discovered the harm around potential issues with hallucinations or confabulations with these models. It was just jarring. I posted it. This was around the time New York Times also posted something about Bing, stalking someone. I can't remember. So I thought it was the right time to write an article about that, and that became viral. It turns out that I was right. LLMs are not a reliable information store. And I'm glad that I sort of dropped everything I knew about natural language processing and used that spark, that aha moment, to refocus and relearn everything I thought I knew about, how machine learning models, if they were large enough, could represent you could understand the representation of meaning to do some really, really cool stuff, either be it images or audio, video, and of course, large language models, right? So, or text.
Yeah, I had a kind of similar experience when Google, in response to the popularity of ChatGPT first launching their model and 100 million users in 3 months or something. And so they were forced to launch Bard at that time. And the launch was a disaster because they were showing the model's performance and asked it a question about the telescope, and it gave the wrong answer, and Google lost $100 billion or something. I don't even know, because the numbers just sound unreal to me. But I had the similar reaction to Noble, in that I wrote an article on LinkedIn, and I was very adamant, because as a statistician, and I knew how these models work, and I'm like, these are probabilistic models, people. It's based on probability. And I was so, I wanted people to understand this is a feature, not a bug. Don't expect deterministic type of responses. That's not what it's all. You're missing the point about these amazing models if you're thinking they are calculators or something, Right. And so I was very, I still, kind of always use that opportunity, because sometimes, people who have not used the models or may have used it the first thing they ask me, if they know that I work in AI, I heard that these models hallucinate, and, that's all they know about it. And I'm like, yes, but that's actually a good thing because it allows for creativity and variability and randomness and stuff that, that can be leveraged, right? We have calculators, and if you need the model to be deterministic, we also have LangChain and other systems that we can, combine it with to get that kind of certainty. But the models are probabilistic by nature. So that was my soapbox.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, Noble, condolences to you and your family on your own passing. I think both of those are very great perspectives to bring forward into how we approach prompts, because it really just brings a level of focus and almost skepticism to these tools that I think is highly appropriate to ensure that they are put to the right use and the most effective use for a variety of different contexts. So I think that is a very good opportunity for us to move into the Face-Off segment of our show. So I explained it at the outset, but just to give folks a reminder in case you joined late, we've got a few tasks pre-prepared that I'm going to pose to our two AI experts, and I will give them the keys to the car and let them drive and sort of show their screen, show their tools, think out loud about how they approach these different tasks and execute them with the different AI tools at their disposal. And please, I see a lot of engagement in chat. That's great to see. Continue to throw your questions and ideas in there. We hopefully will have a little bit of time to entertain ideas, objectives, tasks shared from the audience. So I think first, let's start with you, Noble. I don't want to say this is a layup because many people, present company included, may not know how to do it, but I think that this is an easier start than some of the other tasks we have prepared. The challenge I'm wondering if you could walk us through is, imagine you are launching Focusly, a minimalist productivity app. Show us how you would approach creating a launch blog promoting this new product.
So the solution is an app called Focusly.
That's the solution, Focusly. It is an app, and I'll put it in the chat for other people to see what we're working with. It's an app called Focusly, and the goal of the app is it's one of those productivity apps specifically targeted at remote workers, so you can block distractions and have deep work sessions.
All right.
So that's all you know about the product, and the end deliverable is a launch blog for this application.
Awesome. All right. So the way I think about this, I'm going to share my screen, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Bear with us, folks, if we have some technical challenge as we get a little wild here with the screen sharing, but it should be straightforward.
Let me know if you see my screen.
Good afternoon, Noble. Perfect.
Awesome. So this is a paid version of Anthropic's Claude. And I say that because I'm not quite sure if the performance is the same, but this is the latest Claude model, Sonnet 3.7. And typically what I want to do when I'm prompting within Claude, I read their notes as to how to prompt it. And what they are adamant on is to make my prompts composable. And what I mean by that is, and I'm going to paste this here. I already had this prepared. I promise that's the only thing that I did. And then what I'm going to do is explain what you're seeing here. What Anthropic advises is to create composable code, meaning you want composable prompts, which means you want to make it as for you to be able to reuse, to make it more modular for you. The role is kind of like a role-playing thing. I want Claude to play a role as, in this case, maybe we'll call it this is Promptly, right? What was the name of the
Focusly.
Focusly. All right, so it will be a blog post. Let me see. All right, I'm going to give it a role. We're going to say you are a product copywriter for a calm, minimalist, productivity app. So that's the role that it's going to play. I'm going to give it a goal or a task. We'll call it a task. I don't like, I'll use goal for something else. So I'm going to give it a task. I'm going to say, all right, let me see the prompt again. The instructions were to, all right, so we'll say write. So this is the meat and potatoes, right? So say write a 500-word launch blog post for Focusly. Okay. a distraction blocking app for remote workers. It's a good task, right? I'm going to give it some constraints, and by constraints I mean, what relevant background, or it's kind of like context, like what relevant background or things that I expect it not to do. So if I were to give it examples, I would say, do not use the exact example, just be inspired by it. So that's an example of a constraint. So I didn't plan this, but I'm actually gonna break this down because this is actually literally how I would do it. So I'm gonna add some.
Happening live, folks.
Come again?
We're doing it live.
I know. I was like confident. And any programmers in the audience may. What's a calm, confident type of app? Was a Notion? I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Any other ideas? So you'd probably want to give it one or two examples. You would want to give it, I'll just use one more, structure, which is important, so that the two ways I give it structure, one way is to just give it an example, as I just mentioned, or if this is a first pass, you can just say title, so your H1, your H2, and so a title, a subtitle, if that matters to you, but I'm just going to just keep this simple. I'll say an executive summary, like our intro, headers, use case, and a call to action, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully it knows what CTA is.
Noble, as you're doing this, quick question from the audience: the code syntax you're using, is this applicable across GPT products, or is this unique to Claude?
No, I'm doing this for two reasons. One is because when Claude loves XML, I'm using something called XML syntax, and Claude seems to respond or perform better for me. But it's as the models get better, the second reason why I'm doing this is to sort of show, don't tell, and explain to our learners to sort of see what I'm doing. If you left out the brackets with the different prompt blocks, or what I'm calling the composable structures, you're bringing in control scope, and you're also sort of helping yourself learn how to structure a perfect prompt. And then over time, you don't really have to do it. If you do run into some problems, always do it. If you're programming some, Llama models, the open source models may have a different syntax, like the curly brackets, I believe. ChatGPT may use a completely different syntax. I can't remember exactly. I think the pipes, or maybe I got that backwards. But there are model specific ways to try to nudge the output to be as close to accurate as possible. Not 100% deterministic, but as close to that as possible, right? Yeah. Typically here, I would also tell it what format I wanted the output to. I'm not going to do that here. I just want to be surprised. And I'll start with an example. I'll say, this is your draft. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to spit out. And I don't know how we should share this. While we're preparing.
This is great. I think maybe just scroll through it a little more slowly so we can just see. Yeah, there you go. We've got our title, intro, a few headers.
So we're just vibe checking this, right? Like we're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will not be issuing any grades today.
It's thoughtful, not rigid restriction.
I can't believe he said the V word.
Oh no! Don't get me started. All right. So
yeah, there's your CTA. Okay.
Call to action. Yeah, so that's literally it. And you'll notice I will do this because I'm going to I'm not going to switch LLMs. I'm just going to use Claude for the most part. So that's why I sort of copied and pasted the little prompt blocks that I had.
Yeah. This is great, and I think there's probably more sophisticated tasks we can get to. So I want to move us along, but just quick question is, how would you envision yourself kind of tuning from here? Like, will you read this and just kind of say, "Hey, run that back with change this, change that"? Would you go back to your call it source code and like completely rework it? Like, how do you like to iterate?
It depends. On a good night, I would have gotten something maybe 60 to 70% of the way there. And then what I can do, depending on the features in the tool, I can say and this is specific to Claude, but Gemini by Google has a canvas as well, and so does OpenAI. I can say, open, let's improve the call to action, use artifacts this turn. And so one tip that I will give, just to sort of close this out, and this is how artifacts works. It actually, in my opinion, makes for a couple different options. You'll notice that I just said the CTA, so it just allowed us to sort of hyper focus on that. If I wanted to sort of copy this as Markdown into another system, I could do that. If I wanted to publish this and make this editable by other people or viewable by other people, I could do that, save it as PDF and so on and so forth. But you'll notice that my prompt was very rigid and constrained, and that was on purpose. I wanted to be as specific and concise and just to hit the big points, because talking to humans is hard. Talking to LLMs is even harder. And so I gave it a starting point as a result, and I leveraged some of the tools or features of the specific to that LLM, and depending on how. Another tool, just to wrap this up, another tool here is thinking mode. I can't remember how to, there used to be like a thinking mode or something. There it is. So extended thinking, I think it's called. If I want to answer your question, if I wanted to do an additional turn and have it sort of think step by step through, the prompt that I would use wouldn't be explicit and as detailed as what I just did. It would just provide, I advise you provide the goal. If you're going to use a model with thinking or a deep researchy kind of thing, just give it the goal and be specific with the goal. Provide examples in that goal if you want, and then just have it run with it. So again, be mindful of the type of model that you're using and the features available to it. Future turns of it can be less specific or less focused on an area. In this case, we chose CTA, and just take as many turns as possible in order to get it where you want.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow. Very helpful, very clearly thought out. I'm not even lying. I didn't know half the things you just did existed, and I use GPT all the time. So eye-opening for me personally, hopefully for others as well. Dr. Uohna, I think we're going to try to ratchet up the difficulty level of our tasks. Hopefully not too much.
Before you move on from that, I just want to show, while you guys working, just quickly what I did. And I actually, instead of using as an alternative to Claude, I did Microsoft Copilot, because I kind of like Microsoft for marketing things, and there are a number of reasons. But so this was my task, my prompt, sorry. I gave the role, act as a seasoned marketer, write a blog about this app, and I gave the context, it's for deep work and all that. And the other thing I did was to give the style, as well as include some SEO terms, keywords kind of thing. And so it did generate this blog post here. But if I had a task like that, I would not probably start with the blog post. I would probably start with the marketing strategy in general, and then have the blog be one of the things, and then have like ask the model to generate a list of potential blog post ideas kind of thing. So I did have something like that to give me an idea, and then it gives, some ideas of how to go about it, like what kind of keyword strategy to engage in, what kind of audience you're targeting. One of the other things that could be done is to develop an audience profile, the target audience, who kind of, and you can ask the models to do that for you, and you can tweak it and then use that to guide all of your future works as far as this product is concerned. And you can even one thing that I'm sure Noble knows about in Claude is that you have projects. You can create projects, right? So now all of the prompts and the chats and stuff related to that task will be stored there, and you can add other documents so that all future prompts will use that as the base, the data for responding. So just my take on that.
Yeah, great to see an alternative approach in a different tool. And speaking as a marketing professional myself, I really appreciate some of the strategic and search engine optimized elements you folded in there. I want to bring us to our next prompt. Dr. Thiessen, I'm going to go back to you. I know you're a data scientist by trade, so hopefully this is up your alley. We have shared an online retail data set that's available open and online. And we would love to see how you work with AI to identify outliers from the data set and give direction to something like a retail operations team around what actions they could take based on the findings.
All right. So I would, let's see if I can start by sharing my screen here first. So one of the things that, hold on, let's see if we can get that. Right. So one of the things that Claude, and not just Claude, I think OpenAI and even Gemini, they all have a feature that allows you to, in the setting, if I can find it here, that you can add on analysis tool here as part of, how the model works kind of thing. And so that is, that helps a lot. If I can go back to my chat here. So if I have something like that, a task like that, the first thing I would, of course, I am partial to always give my model the role, and I don't always, do this, but for teaching purposes, and Claude nicely makes, does the HTML for me. So I would say act as a seasoned or veteran data scientists. And you have posted the challenge in the chat, if I can access it. Okay, you're muted.
I posted it in the chat. Hopefully it's still accessible. I can also try to send it to you.
Hold on, let's see if I can get that here. Scroll all the way down my chat. All right, so I have the chat here, the challenge, and I would go back to this. Is it? No, that's my chat GPT. I want to use Claude for this. So I would actually paste it here, then parse it out here. So this is the challenge, and I would say the task in this case, right? Analyze transactions for this online data set, and identify, and would probably like do some kind of either give actual steps or numerations or some kind of bulleting. So first it needs to identify outliers, like unusually large or blah blah blah, or duplicates transaction. Explain what you might I'm not sure. Oh, reshape upstream contain. So just actions. And I would also, before actually even getting to the actual task, I would probably give an additional step to uh, perform exploratory data analysis, and that would involve basic statistics, distribution of variables or features, any missing values. And I don't always type this out. I have an actual, template that I use
Sure.
all the time. So yeah, that's mostly for it. And I would also ask the model, because I'm very visual, generate visualizations or graphs or charts that make the that explain the findings
Yep.
for a non-technical audience.
I know I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but my burning question, because I have not done this before, is
Sure.
how do you actually upload the data set?
So there's this little button here, and if you click on upload, and did you share a link to the data or no?
Yeah, I can drop one in just now.
Although I think I probably can access it from the website.
I sent it, and I'll send it in the chat too for the benefit of all those at home.
Right. So once I get that, I can open up another thing, go here, download the data set, and I'm going to put it on my desktop for now. Right, and when I'm in Claude, I can go here and click on upload file, go to desktop. The file is still zipped, so I will have to
Some narration for those at home. Where Dr. Uohna is only sharing one screen intentionally, so we don't access too much other information from her desktop. So some of the things she's doing are a little behind the scenes, but I think most folks will probably intuit that we're just downloading a file from the link I sent, and we will be uploading it from a local folder into Claude.
So one thing I'm realizing is that this is a very large file, Doctor.
Is it?
Yeah, and so what may happen, I don't know. I looked at the size and it was over 30 megs. And so
I see.
I'm actually, can I steal your share and then?
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, perhaps I'm speaking too soon. It's still analyzing. I'm using a different model.
Okay, I'm trying to you can steal the share. Do I have to stop sharing?
Oh, no, you don't, but I spoke too soon because mine is still analyzing. So,
well, a question kind of based on what we're experiencing here live is, I mean, some of the data sets, when you're working with LLMs, I mean, you're typically working with quite large data sets. Is there sort of a threshold, as in, data sets below a certain file size are seamless, and other ones you need a certain more robust setup to operate with?
So
yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because these models all have context windows, and the context windows have a very specific limitations on how many they say tokens that it can handle. And so that would determine how large the files
Yeah.
that you can upload. Now, Gemini, boasts of the largest context window, and I think right now you can upload 1 billion tokens. If someone could correct me, and the others are all less than that. Claude should have a pretty big context window, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to.
And if you just see whether you can upload it, if not, I can sort of show what ChatGPT, which I haven't used in a while, but I have it working now.
Yeah, so Claude is not able to upload it because it's too big.
Do you mind if I steal your
Sure,
share?
go ahead. Yep.
All right, so I'm going to share my window, and let me know if it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so to contrast with how I prompted Claude before, this time I'm just using natural language. As you can sort of see, there was a bug. I don't know what, it just choked. But I just wrote in natural language, but I did, in similar ways, I did give it a role. So you see a theme here.
Yeah.
I did give it a goal, or sorry, task, and I sort of decomposed that way in the same sort of theme. I gave it its instructions, and I gave it a silly example. I don't know why I wrote that. Anyway, so in most of these tools, Doctor is right. Like, Gemini is perhaps the best for a large data set, or AI Studio by the Gemini team. Here, I'm asking for, 3 things, unusually large orders. So it gave me a distribution of that, of the orders, total order price over, this is the distribution of total order prices. And then, so that's the first one, or maybe even the second one. Order prices. And then there's frequent returns. Let me go back. So you can actually interact with these sometimes, but this is not an interactive one. This is number of returns over the customers. So, you can sort of see the trends there. And then it went above and beyond and gave me some recommendations, right? I don't believe I asked for that, did I? Oh, yeah. After the code, summarize what actions you can do. So it did do exactly what I'd asked. And so these are some outlier summaries, and you can then use that for your business magic. I've stalled enough for you, Doctor. So if you want to steal the share back.
Yeah, so I actually transferred it to Gemini, but now I am having that. So all of my systems are in dark screen, and I did not change that. So it's going to be in dark screen for this. And let's see. Right. So, yeah. So I did put. I was able to upload the file to Gemini, but as you can see, because it's a large file, it is taking a long time. Now, one of the alternatives, usually I would take that file and extract a sample of it, or I can even instruct the model to say, just use the first 20, 25 lines of the data set to generate the analysis. Or because what I do normally is I would ask either Gemini or Claude to use Python code. See, it's giving me something went wrong. I think the file is too large. To use Python code, and I would actually take that code and then put it over into my Python Google Colab notebook and work on the file in there, as opposed to, because as Noble showed, these models will tend to assume things and do analysis that you're not didn't ask for, and sometimes they make mistakes, they generate errors, certain things like they would treat sometimes a like whether it's a numerical value as categorical, vice versa, or something like that, and it doesn't kind of. So I would actually have to specify how to treat. So the first thing I'd probably do is like give a list of all of the features, then see which ones, give, are there any issues? Then I'll kind of identify outliers by generating plots and charts and graphs and stuff like that. So that would be the way I would approach it if the file would allow me to upload it.
Another trick that I have adapted. So the model, large language models, and this is a hot take, are the least interesting part of the utility that you get out of them. It's the harnesses or the features around these models that make them more powerful. So when you are trying to analyze a large data set like this, and you cannot, say, by default, upload a 40 meg or 50 meg file, even with a context window, meaning the amount of tokens that the large language model or the tool you're using can allow. They have some tools. So you'll notice what Doctor has here is she hit the little plus button, and she has a couple options. In addition to uploading the file, you can read from Google Drive as well.
That's true.
Which means you're not, it doesn't have, it still has to upload it and ingest and analyze that file, but that's one less upload that you have to do from your side. All right. So it's basically an API call between Gemini and Drive and your Drive file with the same authentication. So that may work for you. If that doesn't work, there are other ways to do it. Dr. Uohna just mentioned one way to do that. Another way would be to use a different tool, use tools that are special purpose for that. So Google Colab or a Jupyter Notebook are data analysis solutions that you should probably consider.
Yeah, and just if I could go quickly to Google Colab, because that is my go-to tool when it comes to data analysis, especially for these kinds of large files. And I will share my screen here just a little bit. And this is the thing about Google Colab now. They have this, before it was just the notebook, right? IPython. Then they added a feature where you can actually have Gemini inside of it to help you along, right, when you run into issues. But now they've added this additional feature here that allows you to actually upload the file, and then the AI will kind of do a preliminary type of analysis to your file. So it's saying, here are the steps I'm going to follow. And you could actually either just run this, say, go ahead, or you could make changes to it if you want to make some changes. But those are some of the things you do for like really large files. So after it's done, all of this preliminary analysis, then I will go in and ask the specific questions about identifying the outliers and anomalies and stuff like that. And after I've done all of that, based on my understanding of the files now, or the data set or the insight, I will then ask the model to generate some insights, some recommendations, some things that could be shared to the product team or the ops team kind of thing. And I always will then be edited based on my expertise, right? Because the model might, of course, it can hallucinate, or it can generate things that does not make sense, or it's not really, not actionable. And so here it's actually starting to do the, it's writing a code. And that's one of the things about these models. When they write code, it tends to be very verbose. So here, instead of a simple load the PDF or the Excel file or CSV as a data frame, it's writing all of these precautions to test it and check if there's errors. So, it's covering all of the edge cases in case of any kind of issues, but that's what it is. So probably we could come back to that once it's done.
Well, I think one amongst the many learnings, one is certainly be selective in the size of the data file you want to use for your live webinar. That's a good one for us.
Yes,
No, this was
exactly.
great. This was great. I think
No,
it
I mean, still, I
demonstrated
think super
something
great
that,
insights and good learnings. A lot of engagement in chat. I see a lot of interesting conversations. Want to be mindful of the time we have. I think we had an hour for this conversation. We've covered a lot of ground. Got a couple minutes left, and so I don't know if we have time to run through another prompt, but I did want to maybe do a couple rapid fire Q&As just based on some of the sentiments I see in the chat. So, Noble, Dr. Thiessen, I'll just kind of pose a question, and I want to hear your quick take
Sure.
on what we've heard from the audience. So the first is I want to know what, and to be clear, this discussion is not sponsored by any particular tool
yes.
or application or entity. This is purely the personal opinion of our AI experts. I'm going to give a few contexts and maybe just say what tool you prefer to do that. So, Noble, what are you working the most for coding?
For coding, I'm currently straddling Claude 3.7 Sonnet as my primary, but on a good day, I might use the new Gemini 2.5
Okay.
Pro.
Dr. Thiessen, what about you and data analysis?
Yeah, so definitely Claude for if I want to generate the code. So for example, sometimes I create tutorial notebooks of how to analyze an entire data set. Claude is really good for that. It will give me the outline and give me example codes and have it structured nicely and and follow all of my instructions really, really well. If it's an actual like large data set like the one that you shared, I would definitely go with Gemini because one, larger context window, and I find that the programming or the coding is getting better and better. Previously Claude was king of code, but I have to say Gemini is really getting better. And now the 2.5, I think it's even better. So it's really challenging Claude for some of the coding projects.
Yeah. Next question, Noble. AI moves at, I don't know, the speed of light, something faster than that. What are the one or few resources you use to kind of keep abreast of what's important?
The model or the creator of the model's documentation. That's read the docs, and that's definitely my go-to. That's normally where I learn a lot about the capabilities or what I was talking about before, the harness or the scaffold, and the features that enhance the usability of said tools. Um, yeah, and so yeah, I'll leave it there. I go with whatever the horse's mouth, I guess the model maker is saying how to use it and their white papers.
That's great. Dr. Thiessen, I'm curious your response and no repeats.
Yeah, no, I am a Dr. Andrew Ng stan. That is like my guy to like. I follow him on all social media platforms, and he's always announcing some new tool, new technology, new feature, new course. So that's kind of how I keep up. And there's another recent person I started following, Ethan Mollick, and he is an educator in the business, Wharton School of Business, but he's really exploring the use of AI in the classrooms and how teachers and educators. So I really love a lot of the work that he's doing there. But I also tend to read also the documentation and like the latest research on some of that's coming out from different like Google or MIT or something. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And the last question before I wrap, Noble, what are you most excited for as it pertains to what's next in AI?
Oh wow, that's a really hard question to answer. Well, what am I excited for? I'm excited to see what's next, I guess, specifically stuff that I'm working on, which is human factors and how user interfaces adapt to a user's intent, their preferences, or their goals. And so, imagine having an interface tailored, an entire structure of an interface tailored to helping you complete your goal quicker, in the same way that your Netflix feed is custom to you, and that's on the data side. And that's a concept called generative UI. And I've been, you've got these foundation models that know a lot, but they may not know how my domain in finance may represent certain types of plots. So I've been working on fine tuning an open weight model on typical data visualization packages, such as like Tremor, D3, and recharts. And that's going to be launching soon. And so I'm just really curious as to how generative UI evolves over time.
Great. Thank you. And Dr. Thiessen, same question for you. What are you excited about in this space?
I'm really excited about the image generation, but more from the user side of it than, the actual making of these models, because both Noble and I talk about giving presentations, and yes, we have these amazing tools that can generate images, but when it comes to technical images that actually to be used to teach the concepts of whether it's data science or machine learning or AI, that is a challenge, right? And so now that OpenAI has launched their new OpenAI visualization, image generation that can do infographics and actually get the letters and the wording correct and create those kinds of images, that for me is it's really exciting, because I spend a lot of time trying to come up with the right images for my slides and for my lectures. So I'm really excited to see how that tool develops.
Great. Well, thank you both very much for your time today. I personally learned a lot. I hope the folks who joined us, thank you for joining and hearing firsthand how our AI experts approach prompt engineering and the broader AI and ML environment. There's a lot happening in this space as we covered today. So appreciate everyone doing their best to keep up to date and learn best practices. We will follow up to everyone who registered and attended with a recording, as well as some additional notes on some of the best practices and mentions from today. And otherwise, you can find Dr. Thiessen and Noble in the Udacity classroom on our generative AI fluency course and our AI product manager nano degree. So check those
I hope
out.
that we'll save the questions that we didn't get to, and maybe we can have another session where we can address.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions, a lot of ground to cover. There's always more prompts to do, so look forward to figuring out the next step here.
Absolutely.
And thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, depending on whatever's left of it. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.